Why don't you fall over? I'll get it on camera. She doesn't see the humor in that. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've fallen about at least a dozen times today, if not more. We got a nice sheet of ice across everything. So even the machine shed, was all melting off earlier. But all the buildings had a nice thick heavy sheet of ice on them, and really, oh, that's kind of neat, really making them, has the potential of making a mess. So yeah, that's really what we're dealing with right there, and that's actually kind of light. This running gear has been sitting out for a while. It's gotten some people's attention. There's nothing that we're going to be doing with it anytime soon. This was actually off of an Easy Trail gravity wagon. At least that's what we had mounted on the top. It was a 250 bushel wagon. Now I'm just gonna skate around here on the ice. That at one time was a big wagon for us. I think that was one of two that Grandpa got when we started doing shelled corn. Now, the reason that we took the box off of it was because there once was a time where we did, whoa, oh, I almost made it 13. There once was a time where we did regular fertilizer, as in not liquid, but solid fertilizer on the corn planter, and this was our fertilizer wagon. We had an auger that we mounted onto the wagon so we could put fertilizer, or get fertilizer to the corn planter in all the fields. And the problem is, if anybody knows anything about fertilizer, is that it is hard on metal. It rusts everything out that it touches, and this was the second wagon that we actually went through. It wasn't all that long ago that we were using it. I think there's one of the early videos on how farms work that I was using the M&W, and I had this wagon hooked up behind the M&W, pulling them both with the 7600 hauling corn. I'm pretty sure Ryan used the shot of it in one of his music videos, maybe. I know I've seen it here not that long ago, but I was pulling tandems with it. Only problem is that it was getting a lot of holes in it and everything else like that. So it got to the point where if we even tried to hit it with the welder, the metal would literally just dissolve in your hands. Like, there's nothing there to really save. But that is to be expected. When we put the fertilizer on it, we knew that was going to happen. It was just part of the price you pay to deal with fertilizer, which is also why when we went to the 12 row, the last year we had that 6 row, we got away from doing the fertilizer with the planter. And then luckily enough for us, when we went and got that 12 row in season that didn't have fertilizer on it at all, we were already geared towards not putting fertilizer down with the planter in the first place. It really didn't show as far as on our yields without putting that fertilizer right down with the seed. Big plus for us. We did go back to putting liquid down. The reason we did that, we went back to doing liquid, or we started doing liquid, was largely for the pop-up factor. We definitely saw last year when we were putting down with the liquid, that it was getting the seed going a lot sooner, and it was getting the plant up and out of the ground that much quicker. Big payoff, largely because crusting is an issue when we plant it in the spring in dry conditions, or say muddy conditions, and we get a rain shower and then it gets really hot and dry after you get a good storm. Crusting can turn into an issue. A couple years ago, unrelated to the corn, but I did have those soybeans that didn't emerge, where I had, what, 50,000 seeds per acre out of 160. So I mean, crusting is a concern. It's not something that we've had happen a lot in the past, but also you can make an argument for a rotary hoe too. Because if I would have had a rotary harrow and I would have harrowed those soybeans early enough, I probably would have gotten away with it, or at least, well, to be honest with you, I really didn't gain anything by going through and seeding down or reseeding those beans that year. it was a wash. I would have been farther ahead just to let it go and just combine it, because in the end they only ran 35 bushels to the acre, which there's probably people out there that are saying 35 bushels to the acre, are you out of your mind? I mean, you got top yields. Oh, maybe in some parts of the world 35 bushels to the acre is awesome, but for our little area of the world, the county average is 55 bushels to the acre. So I was 20 bushels under county average, and my usual actual average is about 10 bushels above the county average. I mean, at least that's what I aim for, and generally we can get it. Make that 14. All right, I know, farmers below, but the reason this is out, it's not because we're planning on doing anything with it immediately. Basically boiled down to a space issue. We wanted to get a couple of the implements into the shed, specifically that Earthmaster disc and the grain auger, and this was in the way. Granted, it doesn't hurt to have stuff inside that's where we would generally want stuff, so it's in out of the weather, so this crap doesn't happen to it and it gets all iced up, but it's really not hurting anything. Mid to long-term plans, we've actually discussed what we may do with this thing. When we first took that gravity wagon off, or the gravity box off, there were some rumblings about maybe turning this into a flat wagon, just going out and getting a bunch of wood and making a platform for it and making it into like a bale carrier. Granted, it wouldn't be able to hold a whole lot the way it's set up, maybe extend the tongue out or the frame, but as you can see, that really didn't come to fruition. I mean, we could have made another bale wagon out of it. No reason we can't yet. But more recently, and the most recent thought, plan, intentions might happen for this was actually putting a fertilizer tank on it. Yes, think about putting a fertilizer tank on it and making this and using this as a tender wagon. Kind of like that idea. We'd have to get the pump for it and everything and find a tank that would really fit it. Just kind of shooting from the hip, because otherwise it really is just taking up space. So I mean, if it's just going to take up space, why don't we make a good use out of it? I did like the running gear that we had on the fertilizer tender last year from United Co-op. Just the dual axles it had on it, or the tandems it had on it, I mean. Just worked well. I just worry about this as far as putting a 1,000-gallon tank or 800-gallon tank on it. I would be a little concerned about, well, I guess we could and just not fill it up all the way. I just worry about the frame being able to take that much weight, because it's built, but I have my concerns that it's built quite heavy enough. I mean, yeah, you got to remember, this thing's already kind of rusted out in some spots, and overall durability of it, you start getting a bunch of chemicals sloshed around in the tank, going back and forth up and down the road and through some of our fields with it, because some of our fields are rough. Some of our field roads are rough. We did have that tender tank last year where the two fields that we had to get to, the roads were so steep that even with only half a tank on, or the tank was only half full, we couldn't make it with the truck. We spun out and we ended up using the 7600 to tender, to pull that tank, to pull the tender up to the 4020, so I could side dress. Oh, you stand outside too long, that wind, as calm as it is, it's freezing my eyelashes shut or together. So yeah, we're already talking about planting already, so my battery's dying. All right, I'm gonna cut this right here. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something, or at least I cleared up any questions there. I'll talk to you guys later. So stay warm, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you later.
And now you know the rest of the story.